get asked all the time, how do you deal with the fact that you're doing virtual real estate and you need to have something done states away, multiple states, 1,500 miles away, whatever. Let's say, for example, how do you show a house that you have just bought or you have under contract? Do you have the old seller do it for you? Or how do you go about doing these kind of things? This is probably one of the biggest threads that I run across that keep people from doing virtual real estate. Virtual real estate, just to give you guys a heads up, is really the wave of the future. I know everything's local, but the old concept is, listen, if there was a $30,000 check sitting there for you, but it was 1,700 miles away and you had to get there by tomorrow night to get it, would you figure out how to get there? And the answer is obviously yes. I could figure out how to go someplace 1,700 miles away by tomorrow night to pick up my $30,000 check or lose it. And that is the concept behind virtual real estate. There may not be a deal right next to you down the street or in the same town, but there may be one in East Overshoe, New Hampshire that you've got to go get. And that is the beauty of virtual real estate, is you can do deals all the time, everywhere. You don't have to worry about whether the market is up here and down here or any of those kinds of things, because you're dealing with the whole nation. And there's always a good market and a bad market someplace. Sometimes most of them are good. Sometimes most of them are bad. Doesn't matter. If you're working the whole nation, you can always put together a deal. And like I said, the main objection, the main obstacle most people have is the fact that, hey, how do I deal with a property that's so far away? Well, let's go through some of the most common things. One of the especially when you're dealing with seller finance type things, or what we call transactional engineering, you're going to get properties that people will deed to. You can buy subject to that are way far away. And the way you get around that is, one of the questions I had on National Call today is, listen, do I have the seller who's still in residence, do I have them show it to my potential buyers? Absolutely not. You don't do that. And there's a couple of reasons why, but the biggest is the seller is not per se your friend. They're not in the same boat that you are in terms of you trying to sell the property. They want to get it sold. I can tell you for a fact their greed glands will swell up and explode when they find out that you're taking their property, marking it up, and selling it to somebody else. So you don't have them do it. Let's cut that out to begin with. You never have them do it. So if you get a house that the seller is still in, remains in residence, how do you show it? It's a great question. What I always suggest doing is set a date in the future, typically 10 days to 2 weeks out, and tell the seller, listen, if that's a Sunday afternoon, say for 1 to 4, I need you out of that house between 1 and 4 so that I can have all my inspectors and my potential customers and things come in and look at it all at one time. I can't have you in for liability purposes. I can't have you in the house. I will have somebody there, and they'll meet you at 1, and then they'll meet you back at the house at 4, and they will never leave the house during that period of time. Now, where do you get that person? Well, if your plan is to lease option a house out or to lease it, let's say you've had a house given to you vis-a-vis a subject to, where you basically get the ownership, but the deed of trust, the mortgage stays in the old seller's name, and you're picking up their coupon book and making payments. What you would do is, if you're going to get somebody to represent you, I'd recommend a local property manager. If you're going to have an out-of-state rental that's 1,500 miles away, I'd get a local property manager to represent your best interest in that. And then they can do a couple of things. They can screen anybody that you can generate to come in and look at that property. They can be there from 1 to 4 a week from Sunday, but you can also, they'll bring others in. They'll have access to other potential tenant buyers for you, or tenants if you just want to keep it as a rental. And they can show it all at one time. Now, why would you want, 52 potential buyers or tenant buyers or tenants in the house at the same time? Well, law of just the way humans think, you get a lot of people, you get a frenzy going. Everybody is going to be thinking the waters have been chummed. They have. You've got everybody there at the same time. Somebody is going to be really anxious and will be ready to sign that paperwork that day. So you will by creating this frenzy and everybody seeing everybody else coming in and out of the house, you're going to get that thing sold much quicker, and you're going to be able to do it without interference from the old seller. So the best way to go in virtual is, you get a vacant house, and then you put a lockbox, electronic lockbox, so you know who's in and out. You only give the key or the code to the people that you have pre-screened that you know would be good, and then you let them go in and out, and you keep a track of that. Or in this particular case, and this is more often the case than not, where you've got a holdover seller, and they're going to move out, but it's not going to be for a month, so you need to get the thing rented up before then. You use either a local property manager. Sometimes you can hire a real estate agent to come out there and say, listen, I'll give you $50 an hour for 3 hours, $150. And, you give them a sheet with the information on it and everything else. All calls come back to you or to your answering service or wherever, however you got that handled. But I like the concept of using a local property manager on out-of-town properties, especially if you've only got 1 or 2 units in a certain area. You don't have a big built-up thing where you want your own in-house property manager handling that. But, and I know this is hard to believe, especially to those who haven't done it, but the last house that I physically spent time in and looked at that I bought and sold was in 2009. That was like 1,400 transactions ago. There's no reason to. We were doing virtual before it was the thing, before there was Zoom or anything else, before there was the ability to do FaceTime and those kinds of things. It is easy to do. It's safe if you do it correctly. It's a great way to exponentially allow you to do business in multiple parts of the country while you stay in one spot, or more likely if you're on vacation or doing something like that, you can still have these things running in the background, making you money while you're out playing or you're out spending or you're out resting or whatever else you want to do. So I love virtual real estate, and don't let these kinds of things be hindrances and things that keep you held back from moving forward. These are great ways to go. There's a ton of money to be made, but you don't have to be there in person to do it. Thank you for watching. If you get a minute, I would love to hear your comments about what you think of these videos.